So what are your earliest memories of Amritsar?
Well, thinking back, I was thinking that I was very fond of playing marbles, flying kites. Uh, the other thing which comes to my mind is that my grandmother, my mother's mother, Nani,
Uh-huh.
had taken sannyas, and she used to stay in a temple. And I used to visit her, and there I used to see this statue of Krishna playing with the flute, with a smile on the face. That has always remained in my mind. And she would even sometimes keep kite for me, because on the terrace, if a kite comes, she will keep it for me. I also remember a Kashmiri Pandit. Once it was raining so heavily, but still he was walking as if nothing is happening. Still he comes to my mind. And of course, my neighbors, the Muslim neighbors. I remember once I had a thorn in my heel. Babiji could not take it out. She said, "Jana kaka o apanu bol o kar degi फटाफट." और वाकई मैं उत्थे गया तो ਆਪਾਂ ਨੇ 1 ਮਿੰਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਕੋਈ ਰਿਸ਼ਤੇਦਾਰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕੱਟ ਦਿੱਤੀ.
Arun Bhaiya says, as I know very little about my grandfather Bauji as a person, I would like to know him, the person, through your eyes.
Arun, Bauji was a very honest person like your father, and very affectionate. And when I say affectionate, just like Apachan, that is Asha's father. Both are very honest and affectionate people, you know. For example, you see now this photo with Sunil, you know. There's so much of love, affection in this photograph, and how Sunil is enjoying being with him. I also would say that he was a very appreciative person, because when I went to the hospital, he said, "That girl who's coming, he takes very good care of me, and she knows her job, she's very good." So honestly speaking, perhaps that led to our getting closer to each other, the way he appreciated her. And of course, after the marriage also, how he continued to support her throughout. I also remember now, he sometimes would take me to the Golden Temple. And there, after we'll get the prasad, he will take me to the pond, and we will throw some prasad into the water to see fishes coming and catching it, you know. I still remember that when you're talking about Bauji. And of course, a thing comes to my mind about my brothers and my father. Bade Bhai Sahab, Ramnath Anand and Brijlal were in Patna. They were in business. After closing the shop, they would come home, and first they will come to the first floor to meet Bauji, and then go down to have their dinner. Bijlarji, of course, was next to us, but Bade Bhai Sahab would go down. Once they came rather late to see him, and when they sat near him, Bauji could smell alcohol. So after they had spent some time together and they were going away, Baoji said, "Beta, ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ, ਕਦੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਲੈ ਲਈ, ਕੋਈ ਅਰਜ਼ਾ ਨਹੀਂ, ਪਰ ਇੰਜ ਕਰਿਆ ਕਰੋ ਨਾ, ਮੈਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਵਿਸਕੀ ਰੱਖ ਛੱਡਾਂਗਾ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਧਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਣ ਆਓ ਔਰ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਮੇਰੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਜੋ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੈਣੇ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੈਣੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਫੈਸਲਾ ਕਰੋ ਜਾਂ ਆਪੇ ਲੈਣਾ." See, that sort of person who was not authoritative but authentic and affectionate and appreciating closeness to the children. And this is how I can remember him, Arun, for your sake. He also had a sense of humor. ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਗਏ ਸੀਗੇ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ, ਬਾਊ ਜੀ ਦੁੱਧ ਪੀਓਗੇ? ਬਾਊ ਜੀ ਕਿਹਾ, ਹਾਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਪੀਵਾਂਗੇ, ਮਲਾਈ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਿ ਬਿਨਾਂ ਮਲਾਈ ਦੇ? ਨਾ, ਬਾਊ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਨਾਂ ਸੀਗਾ ਸੰਤ ਰਾਮ, ਤੇ ਬਾਊ ਜੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ, ਬੇਟਾ ਸੰਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਵਾਦਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਕੀ, ਸਣੇ ਮਲਾਈ ਆਉਣ ਦੇ। ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਗਏ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ, ਬਾਊ ਜੀ ਕੜਾਹ ਬਣਿਆ ਬੜਾ ਸਵਾਦ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਖਾਓਗੇ ਕਿ ਚਾਹ ਪੀਓਗੇ? ਤੇ ਬਾਊ ਜੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ, ਕੁੜੀਏ ਤੂੰ ਇੰਝ ਕਰ, ਤੂੰ ਕੜਾਹ ਲੈ ਆ ਤੇ ਪਾਣੀ ਅੱਗ ਉੱਤੇ ਰੱਖ ਦੇ ਚਾਹ ਵਾਸਤੇ। So I still was told by others about this, but I always relish his sense of humor.
You and your brothers were very conscious of your appearance and like to dress up well. Where did this habit come from?
Well, not easy to answer this question, but thinking back, I was thinking even of my mother. Children wanted a photograph of Papiji and Baoji, so we were going to the photographer, and Papiji says, "ठहरो काका ठहरो, की हो गया पापी जी?" नहीं, वो मैं पेन लाना भूल गई थी। So she went back, put her pen here, and then went for the photograph. Then, of course, I think the eldest brother, Ramnath ji, he was very fond of Hollywood movies, Hollywood stars. His room was having so many pictures of Hollywood stars, and he always dressed very smartly. So partly that was connected with that. Then Brijlal Bhai Sahab, so I remember when I was with him in Shimla, and I was going out with him for a walk, a jog. It was so cold. He said, "Raj, पतलून काट." मैं क्यों? नहीं, स्मार्ट नहीं लगता है, निक्कर पा. So he made me have a half pant, but then he had already bought for me long socks, woolen socks up to the knee. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹ ਪਾ ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਜਾਵਾਂਗੇ. So again, you know, that sort of ideas that man had, and he also dressed always very smartly. और रोशन भाई साहब ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੁਣੇ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਫੋਟੋ ਲਾਓ. He will always, if you want to take his photograph, he will have his cap on. So I think it is perhaps in the blood coming from Papiji.
Could you share some memories of your relatives?
Let me start with Bade Bhai Sahab and Brijlal Bhai Sahab staying together in Patna. Their house was not very big, and still they called me and Badi Bhanji ka beta Pramod to do our studies in Patna and accommodated us as if they were their children, you know. So I can't forget that. And then, of course, Ramnath Bhai Sahab was so much responsible for me going abroad because I always wanted to go abroad for postgraduate studies. But earlier he said I could practice after I had done my MD in Patna, even in the shop itself, where they had a business of surgical instruments and appliances. And no need to go. But after some time, he had gone to Delhi because my Bhabhi's brother was very sick in the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. So after he came back, he said, Raj, तू कह रहा सी ना कि तू बाहर जाना चाहना है, पता कर किसकी उधर तरीका है जान वान दा, तू तैयारी कर बाहर जान दी. So I asked my भाभी, भरजाई जी इन्होंने की हो गया सडनली कहते हैं कि तू बाहर दी तैयारी कर. कहते नहीं, वो जदों हस्पताल गए ऑल इंडिया इंस्टीट्यूट विच और देखा डॉक्टरों की कितनी इज्जत है, वो क्या मेरा भरा भी इस तरह ही बनना चाहिए. एंड ही सेड नहीं इनू भी असी बाहर भेजांगे. एंड देन ऑफ कोर्स दैट मैन हैड सच ए disciplined life, regular walks, then love for people of all religions, whether it's in the Freemasonry or in Rotary or otherwise in his social life, and social interaction with people, Punjabi Biradari, everyone loved him. So he was a very affectionate person. He believed in social interaction, caring for all members of the family. And then Brijlal Bhai Sahab. In Shimla, he used to encourage me to walk to my school, which was very far. And that, I think, was partly responsible for me for a healthy life even today, you know. Roshan Lal Bhai Sahab, so actually I told you about my interest in playing marbles and flying kites. So once he had come to Amritsar and he saw me doing all that, he said, Bhabhi ji, ये तो सारी उम्र फिर इस तरह ही करता रहेगा, मैं इन्हू दिल्ली ले जाऊंगा. And then he organized for me to go to Delhi with him, and then saw right through that I studied properly in the best school in Delhi and later on in Shimla, you know. As far as my sister is concerned, she's the one who introduced me to Gandhiji. She had taken me to a prayer meeting of Bapu and also instilled in me the love for the country, because she herself used to work for the independence struggle with Aruna Asaf Ali, you know, and she would always wear khadi, was very fond of Indian scriptures, and taught me a lot about what really our scriptures mean, you know. Coming to my Bhabhi, eldest Bhabhi, Ramnathji's wife, she was not happy with my marriage with a Christian girl. And Asha had really a tough time to adjust. But to cut the story short, I will say, towards the end of her life, she was in Bombay and she had become very sick. And she literally died in the arm of Asha. And before she died, she said, Asha, I must tell you one thing, कि बेटा मैं पिछले जन्म में ज़रूर कोई चंगे काम किए होंगे कि तेरे जे कुड़ी साढ़े घर आई, you know. So that was Bhabhi. Then when we first came to Mumbai, we didn't know, at that time it was called Bombay, we did not know much about the city. But again, our cousin Iqbal ji and Suman ji, they said, no, you stay with us till you find the right place for you to live, and looked after us so beautifully. Again, so fortunate to have relatives like that. And of course, nephews and nieces. When it was difficult for Asha to meld in the family because of some opposition. But the way all the nephews and nieces supported her helped her really to meld in the family rather easily. You know? And of course, they still continue to support her, whether she's happy or whether she's unwell. You know. Of course, my grandchildren, good grandchildren, always fond of me. In fact, one of them made a special T-shirt for me. I'll show you the T-shirt later. In front it is written, "The greatest grandpa in the world." And at the back there are, palm marks there. And written in front, "The greatest grandpa in the world," and behind, "Deserves a pat on his back." So very lucky to have such relatives and affection. And now when my wife is not well, the way all of them have been looking after her, supporting her, wishing her in all ways is remarkable. And that's how I am able to also handle her illness comparatively in an easier way.
What are your favorite memories from your school days?
Once we were having the school assembly in Shimla, and around 12 o'clock, a bell from outside rang, a loud bell. And I uttered the word, "Sardar de 12 baj gaye." The principal said, "Who said this?" Fortunately, from my elders, I had learned to speak the truth. And I stood up, "Sir, I said it." So in front of the whole school, I was caned, I can't forget that. And I think I deserve that. I also remember my association with RSS, Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. I used to go for the Shakha, and I learned good things like discipline, punctuality, physical activity. We used to play Kho-Kho, we used to play Kabaddi. So quite few good things I did learn. But when they mentioned the word कि हमारा ध्येय है हिंदू राष्ट्र को परम वैभव पर पहुंचाना, and I found some of them even hated the Muslim community. Now, simultaneously, my sister used to teach me about spiritual things, about Hinduism in the way our Shastras said, and the way she took me to Gandhiji's prayer meeting, and I learned, "Ishwar Allah Tero Naam, Sabko Sammati De Bhagwan." So then I differed with them. I'm sorry, friends, my Hindu sister teaches me Hindu scriptures, and according to that, निर्वैर सर्वभूतेषु, किसी से वैर नहीं करना, तो ये मुझे पसंद नहीं है. And then they lost interest in me, and I lost interest in them. But still, I am grateful for the good things that I learned from them.
What are your memories of the partition?
Well, I mentioned about our Muslim neighbors in Amritsar. So when I think of partition, at that time, these Muslim neighbors sensed problem. So they were so sweet. They told my father that बाबूजी आपकी बेटी सुशील जवान बेटी है, तो हमको लग रहा है कुछ सेफ नहीं है आपके लिए यहाँ रहना, क्योंकि कुछ कुछ एनवायरनमेंट कुछ ठीक नहीं हमको लग रही है, तो आप सुशील को लेके ना वो जो आपके पास में गुरुद्वारा है ना वहाँ चले जाओ. And Baoji followed that because we always thought that they were a part of our family, and Baoji thought it was a sensible advice, and he also noticed some turbulence around what was happening at that time of partition. So Baoji took Sushil ji to the Gurudwara, and there he learned that things that got worse, lot of killing. The house of our neighbor, the Muslim neighbor, was put on fire. And as we were very close to them, and the fire doesn't know any religion, the fire engulfed our house as well. And my father and my sister was saved. I can't forget that. Secondly, after partition, my eldest sister, who was living in Sialkot with her family, their family came to Delhi. At that time, I was in Delhi. Because in Amritsar only Baoji and Sushil was there. I had already moved to Delhi. And Bade Banji arrived there. And she then told us that there also killings took place of even Hindus. But their Muslim neighbors, they escorted them right up to the railway station to make sure we catch the train safely. So that again was a good experience to know that there are good human beings among the Muslims as well as Hindus, and we should not just shut our heart because of someone belonging to a particular religion.
Can you tell us about your interest in theatre and in music?
When you ask that question, first I'd like to quote Rabindranath Tagore, who said, "When I work, God likes me. When I sing, God loves me." Now, my interest in theatre, you see, we lived in Delhi in Paharganj, above Arya Samaj. And in front of our home, there was a big ground. And from the balcony, we could see that ground. And every year, the Ram Leela used to be held in that grounds. So we were as if in a special balcony seat watching the theatre, the Ram Leela. So that was the first, I think, thing which comes to my mind about my interest in theatre. Then, when I went to college, I was interested and I joined the drama society. And when I mentioned about drama society, just remembered we had one play in which I was editor of a Hindi newspaper by now. And in the play, there is a commissioner of police, and he found some love letters in one of the boxes of his daughter from some people, and he found out who they were. So I was also hauled up and called by him, and he showed me that letter to me. "Ye tumne likhi hai?" So I saw in my hand, then I took out my pen and I very gently say, "क्षमा कीजिएगा, मैं चंद्र बिंदु लगाना भूल गया था." And I was dressed in khadi sherwani I had a mustache, I had a khadi cap on top of that, just like a editor of a Hindi newspaper. So with the same dress, I went to my home, and I pressed the bell. Our helper came out. So he didn't recognize me because I was dressed absolutely differently. So I asked him कि ब्रिजलाल जी हैं? तो इसे नहीं जी, ब्रिजलाल जी तो बाहर गए हैं. तो मैंने कहा बाऊजी हैं? हाँ बाऊजी हैं. तो मैंने कहा उनसे मैं मिल सकता हूँ, आइए. मुझे बाऊजी के पास ले गया, मैं बैठ गया. तो बाऊजी को मैंने पूछा, बाऊजी ब्रिजलाल जी कहाँ गए? नहीं, वो बाज़ार में कुछ जरूरी काम है, पर थोड़ी देर में आ जाएंगे, आप बैठिए. तो इस तरह से बातें हो रही थी. तो आई गॉट रेस्टलेस. बाऊजी तुसी मैनू पहचानिया नहीं? ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਅੱਛਾ ਉਹ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤਸਰ ਗਲੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੰਡਿਤ ਸੋ ਐਂਡ ਸੋ ਸੀਗੇ, ਉਹ ਹੈ ਨਾ? ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਾਊ ਜੀ ਮੈਂ ਰਾਜ ਆ. And then I took out my mustache and cap and oh badmash. So I still remember that. And then of course we had a teacher in the Department of Pathology who used to teach us music. So we used to have in the medical college a music class once a week. And then, of course, I was very fond of sports, badminton, cricket, table tennis, all that. But what happened because of all that? Interest in all these extracurricular activities, Rajkumar Anand failed in his anatomy examination. Because even when in anatomy we have to dissect the human body. So the body is lying on the table. Few of us are assigned to do the dissection. And with me was my other friend. He's on the right side, I'm on the left side. Everyone is dissecting the human body, learning from it, and we are discussing and rehearsing for our next play, you know. No wonder I failed in anatomy. But fortunate as I am in life, I have been fortunate. I had a friend, my roommate, Bajrang Sahai. Bajrang said, Raj, all this drama, music, sports will help you in life. ठीक है, लेकिन जिस काम के लिए आई हो, फर्स्ट यू हैव टू फोकस ऑन दैट. सो वो मेरे दिमाग में बैठ गया. एंड देन ऑफ कोर्स देयर वाज नो गोइंग बैक. आई पास ऑल माय एग्जामिनेशंस even India or abroad without any problems. And I am very grateful for Bajrang to bringing me to the right path. Also, when I was talking of theatre, one person to whom I was very close, Ram Saran Chopra. In fact, he has taken that photograph which you see of mine when I had returned from abroad. Mm-hmm. So he was also very fond of theatre. And we all, both of us had joined IPTA, Indian People Theatre Association. And we had a play called Pirali. And then later on there was an inter-university youth festival. We took our play to Delhi and Firozshah Kotla ground along with students from all over the country. And I still remember that how fortunate I was to hear Jawaharlal Nehru speak to all the young students. Incidentally, when I mentioned Jawaharlal Nehru, another thing comes to my mind as far as Amritsar is concerned. Bhai Sahib was very fond of Jawaharlal. He told us that sometime all over the city there will be posters कि शेर की आमद है कि रन कांप रहा है. तो कहता सब लोग समझ जाते थे कि जवाहरलाल आ रहा है. फिर थोड़े दिनों के बाद फिर पोस्टर लग जाते थे, कहाँ पर आ रहे हैं पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू और कितने बजे उनका स्पीच होगा. And so that's the things I can now remember about my interest in theatre and music, which has of course continued in Mumbai, and fortunately Asha was equally interested, and both of us have continued to learn and enjoy music. As far as theatre is concerned, whenever there is a good play, we must see that. For example, I still remember Kabir, and which begins with that these two lines. कबीरा खड़ा बाजार में सबकी मांगे खैर ना काहू से दोस्ती ना काहू से बैर. Then we saw another beautiful play जिन्हें लौर नहीं वेख्या. It's a Punjabi play about partition, that how families were displaced, but how beautifully people cared for each other and loved each other and brought those fond memories again to the forefront.
What prompted you to pick medicine and pediatrics as a profession?
I think it was destiny. I remember walking with a friend in Delhi, and I asked him, "What are you going to do?" He said he was going to do medicine. And I said, "तो मैं भी medicine करूँगा." Yeah, you know. So that's how I think it was destiny which played a role. As far as pediatrics is concerned, again, honestly speaking, some people in the college said that for postgraduate examination, actually pediatrics is easier to pass than some of the other subjects. So perhaps that was which led me to do pediatrics. But in any case, I was never interested in surgery. So my inclination was always towards medicine, and I worked with Professor Hai in medicine, and then pediatrics, some of those people from whom I learnt a lot.
So Satish Bhaiya says, with your dashing good looks, Rajji, you must have had some romances before Chachaji came on the scene. Can you open up about this?
Well, I appreciate beauty, and I did love some beautiful faces. But I would say that as good luck would have it, I did not have any romantic relationship with anyone.
Can you tell us about meeting Annie, your future wife? And could you also speak about her family?
For those who want to know in detail about it, they should read the book written by Asha, 1959, A Love Story. But I tell you in brief that my father was admitted in the Patna Medical College Hospital under Professor Hai in the Department of Medicine. And once I had gone to see him, and there was Asha, then Annie, coming from a distance, and my father said, "Raj, वो कुड़ी जुड़ी आ रही है ना, वो मेरा बड़ा ख्याल रखती है, और बड़ी चंगी कुड़ी है, बड़े सब कुछ जो भी करती है बड़ी चंगी तरह करती है." So I think that perhaps was the initial attraction I had toward her, and gradually our friendship developed, and a day came when we thought we should marry each other. But then, when people from the families came to know, there was opposition from both sides. From Annie's side, one the cousin, her cousin, you came to know about it. He went to Annie's father, Apachan, and told him, how dare you think of marrying your daughter to a Hindu? You better tie a stone around her neck and throw her into the sea rather than let her marry a Hindu. Apachan was a very, very, I would say, a man with equanimity. He listened to him, but what he did, he sent his nephew, who was then in Calcutta, now Kolkata, to meet me in Patna and meet my family, to know about me, what sort of person I was. So he came, met me, and met my eldest brother, and gave a good report about me. And in the meanwhile, Mary also found out through her sources about me, maybe through some nurses from the hospital. Um, so that's how I think things moved. And with God's grace, of course, there was opposition again from our families, but in due course of time, they accepted it. Of course, there was a problem from my family as far as conversion is concerned, because my people in my family said, okay, if you want, then she should be converted into Hinduism. So, are you ready? I said, no, I can't tell her that she should get herself converted. At the same time, both of us had decided that we shall not run away from our home. We should only marry with their blessings. But then, both of us will tell our families that if you don't allow us to marry each other, then we shall never marry. And we were clear about it. This is how 2 years passed. You know, of course, we continued to meet each other, but they did not agree. After about 2 years, my father called me. He said, if you are so bent upon it, then give me his father's address, postal address. So I got it from her, and she wrote a letter. My father wrote a letter to Apachan that I and my family is still rather upset about this relationship, but now he's an intelligent, educated person. I hope he's taking the right step. But our only condition is that she should be converted into Hinduism. So when this letter reached, Annie was also at that time around, and Mary read that letter to Apachan. And when Annie was asked, what do you feel? She said, when you people talk about Christian, Hindu, etc., in fact, honestly, I can tell you that Raj is a better Christian than many Christians I know of. So I have no qualms about getting converted into Hindu. To me, it doesn't matter at all to whichever religion my name is given to. So I'm quite happy about it. And that's how, with her approach and Apachan's blessings, and God's blessing, I would say, we got united and we just celebrated our 62nd happy, joyful wedding anniversary.
So, Mummy's older sister Mary Auntie asked this question: what specialty do you find in a Mallu woman?
I think I think they are more assertive, and perhaps that helped me uh, to get her in my life. I also remember an incident that once we had gone to the Himalayas, and there was an ashram which we visited, and it was time for food. So Asha asked Swamiji there, Swamiji, I'll be happy to help in the kitchen. So Swamiji was inside the kitchen, and Swamiji said, no, we don't allow ladies to come in. So Asha, in her own typical way, said, Swamiji, no problem, why don't you get out? I'll go to the kitchen and do it. And Swamiji had no answer. He came out and she cooked. And then after that, Swamiji loved the food and was quite happy to have our company.
So, how has Mummy Asha been as a work and life partner for you?
Well, I have heard this statement made for each other, but honestly, living with her for these so many years make it really feel as if we were made for each other. And those who would like to know more about how she has been supporting me can read the chapter in her book 1959, A Love Story, where she has mentioned how she has been supporting me, and for that what effort she has made even in increasing her input by learning more about secretariatship, about nutrition, so that she can help me in my clinic as well. Then of course even today many of my parents whose children I have seen, they say that how much we loved her being there, and we almost felt as if she was a real friend. So in practice, she just supported me like that. And then in my spiritual growth, she has always been supportive, and we have grown with each other in the spiritual aspects of our life. Also, together, how we went around the world, and she has helped so many mothers in Mumbai to have a successful breastfeeding experience, and going with me all around the world to help people know the importance of protection, promotion, and support of breastfeeding. And of course, we have common interests like music. She loves to sing. We had almost an annex near our clinic, Roxy Cinema. So often we would finish our clinic in the evening and go for the show in Roxy Cinema. Also, we love theatre whenever there is a good performance, and fortunately again we have Nehru Center where very often good programs are seen by both of us. And of course we love to travel. We have gone all around the world. So she has been a wonderful partner in my life, and we have enjoyed our life together.
Have you got any other unfulfilled dreams with Asha?
Honestly speaking, none.
How did you cope as a small town boy from Amritsar, Patna, as you move from Patna to the UK and then to Mumbai for your studies and practice, a lot of young budding medical professionals from the tier 2 cities would love to learn from your experience and dare to build their career on similar lines. And what were your biggest learnings through this journey?
A big question, so I will try. Well, first of all, I must tell you, when I was leaving Patna, one Dr. Sen, a good consultant physician from Patna, he told me, Dr. Anand, if you get a patient and you have fixed a movie with your wife, see the patient. Because one patient may bring you 100 other patients if the patient gets satisfied with you. So when you are beginning your life in Mumbai, give preference to your patients, and hard work will always pay you in the long run. And rest of the entertainment, etc., or other aspects of life will be taken care of. But first, make sure that you are going to a new place and you give your best as far as your practice is concerned. When I came and decided to start my practice, somebody suggested that we have a list of doctors who have passed from our hospital where I was attached, and you can invite them for the inauguration. So I got the list from a clerk in our hospital office, and quite a few people came. Next day I start my practice, and the very first day I have a patient. And this was referred by one of those who were present for the inauguration. And the patient got all right. After a couple of days, I again got another patient from him, and the patient got all right. But after that, no more patient. So I asked my colleagues in my hospital, how come both the patients got all right, but now I have never received any patient from him? They said, Raj, you must understand, he was expecting something from you which perhaps you didn't do. So I said, what's that? He said, that is cut practice. You have to give something to the doctors who refer the patient to you, all the family physicians. Not all expect, but some do. I said, well, I doubt if I can do that, because if was to treat my profession as a business, then I would have better stayed with my brothers in Patna who are in business and stayed and worked with them over there. So it's okay, but if you have patience, yes, don't worry. Imagine a few days later, I got a phone call from someone saying, I am Dr. Dedia. The other day I had referred a patient of mine, a child, to your outpatient department in the Nair Hospital. And I was surprised that you had written such a nice letter without even knowing me, because I had referred to you about the condition of the child and reassured me and what to do and all that. I have never received anything like that from any doctor. No, for me, who has worked in UK, it was a routine practice that when a family physician or general practitioner referred patient to us, we had to give him details about the patient. And so he said, I'm very impressed and I would like my patient to be seen by you. I said, I'd love to do that. But he said, but there's only one condition, If supposing I have a poor patient you will have to charge less. I said, I'm happy to do that. So now Dr. Dedia started sending me patient. And then two of his friends came to know about my proficiency in my profession. And they started sending me without expecting any cut practice. And this is how gradually, without having to pay any commission to anyone, my practice grew, and I was happy that I stuck to this principle. Then, when the question is asked, what young people can learn, it's very simple. I think any child who comes to me, I think it's my own child. And then I decide what I'll do. Will I give any medicine to this child? If this my child is my child and doesn't need any medicine, I will not give any medicine. Or will I do this test or that test? If this was my child, yes. Will I take another opinion if this was my child? If required, yes. So it becomes very simple. If any child who comes to me, and for that matter, even any patient who comes, say, an adult patient to someone, if you feel this is your brother or sister or your father, how will you manage this child? Then it becomes very simple. Then what I have learned is a shared decision. For example, this morning, phone came from a father whose 30 days old child was not well, and a pediatrician had seen the child, and he said this child needs hospitalization. So I want your opinion because our older child was seen by you and we trust you. I said, look, I am not seeing patients directly these days. I am only advising on phone. So were you comfortable with the doctor, the pediatrician who saw the child? He says, well, yes and no. I said, now you have two choices. One is if he feels he has examined the child, he has even investigated the child. If he feels hospitalization is needed, go ahead. But if you are not sure about it, the second choice you have is that take another opinion from another person. If you like, I can recommend whom you can see him, whom I know. So choice is yours. This is what I call shared decision. And then he said, Dr. Anand, I would honestly like another opinion. Then I suggested the name of another of my student who is now a very senior pediatrician, and he's very good in his profession and works in a good hospital, and they will now be seeing him over there. The other thing which I learned is listening more to the family who comes to me with a child. And sometimes I ask people, I'm now so old, why do you come to see me when I was still seeing patients face to face? They said, well, डॉक्टर साहब बहुत कम लोग हमारी बात सुनते हैं और इतनी जल्दी में रहते हैं. सो आपके टेबल पर जब हमने ये देखा, जब आप पहली बार आए थे हम, तो आपके यहाँ ये पड़ा था. सो ये डॉक्टर साहब आपने किस लिए रखा? तो आई टोल्ड देम, मैंने इसलिए रखा कि मैं एनकरेज करता हूँ ताकि आपके मन में जो भी कुछ फिक्र है, क्वेश्चंस हैं, आप हेजिटेट नहीं करें, क्योंकि मुझे उससे बड़ी मदद मिलती है. हिस्ट्री इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर मी टू मेक अ डायग्नोसिस. एट द सेम टाइम मुझे जब टेम्पटेशन होती है कि मैं आपको बीच में रोकूं, तो ये मेरी तरफ है, लिसन. तो मेरा मन कहता है नहीं, अभी उनको बोलने दो पूरा, बिफोर यू स्पीक. सो ये भी बहुत हेल्पफुल पाया गया है टू गिव ड्यू अटेंशन टू द पेशेंट. एंड देन ऑफ कोर्स आई लर्न फ्रॉम माई टीचर्स अर्लियर that whenever you are faced with a difficult problem, that it could be this, it could be that, it could be that. This is what we call a differential diagnosis. First, think of common diseases, because common diseases occur more commonly, rather than straight away start thinking of rare diseases. But of course, rare diseases do occur. But if some other disease comes to your mind, then think first of more easily treatable condition. For example, if there are glands here on the neck and there are boils here, the commonest cause is these boils are there which has caused the glands. So this is common. But supposing you are thinking, could it be tuberculosis? Could it be leukemia, blood cancer, so in that case, first think of more easily treatable condition. That doesn't mean you don't keep other in mind. So first investigate for tuberculosis rather than start thinking of blood cancer. Of course, you can simultaneously take blood test also to rule out blood cancer, but in your mind first should come more easily treatable condition. This I have found very helpful. Then what I found very helpful for my own soul, that there are patients who I find cannot afford the fee. So I never would insist that they must pay my full fee. And then I let them pay whatever they can afford to pay. And also once when the Indo-Pakistan war was taking place, at that time I and my wife decided कि हमारे ये जो लोग जा रहे हैं हवाई जहाज़ में दुश्मनों से लड़ने, पता नहीं बेचारे वापस आएंगे कि नहीं. उस दिन हमने डिसाइड किया कि हम कोई भी जो हमारे आर्मी में जो हैं, पुलिस में हैं, उनसे फ़ीस नहीं लेंगे. हमारे टीचर जो हैं जो अपने बच्चों को लाते हैं हमारे पास, उनसे भी हम फीस नहीं लेंगे. And this was another decision we took, and we are very happy about that. Then of course, finally I would say all this is possible if we cut down our needs. And I have learned this lesson, and it has helped me throughout the life to be happy and joyful and get respect from all around. Cut down your needs for money, fame and honor. Just do your work selflessly. It doesn't mean you don't take money, but don't be greedy, And it has worked very well in my own life.
What has it been like to be a father?
Great.
And could you tell us about your sons?
Well, they are all different, but I must say they are all precious, and I'm proud of them. For example, lately, when Asha got very sick with her lung cancer, honestly, I would have found very difficult to handle it alone. But the way all three of them, in their own way, supported me to give the best to her, best care to her. I'm very, very grateful for them. So as I said, they are all having a different temperaments and a different way of looking at life, but I feel they are very precious and very supportive, and I'm very, very happy to have all three of them.
What was the process of accepting a gay son?
Honestly speaking, when I first came to know about it, I was taken aback. But when Vivek introduced me to quite a few of his gay friends, I came to find that except for their sexual orientation, they were like any other human being. And I always have been talking about unity in diversity, communal harmony, and I found this was a good example of unity in diversity. So then it was easy for me to accept his sexual orientation.
Can you tell us about your son's wives and their partners?
Well, I must say that I didn't have daughters, but they are just, I would say, not like daughters. I would say they are my daughters, and I'm very happy to have them in our family. Talking about Alka, she has a very artistic temperament, and she has helped Sunil, whether it was in Pune or in Canada now. In Canada, especially, she has got now a wellness center where she supports Sunil as far as his homeopathic practice is concerned, and they have other modalities like yoga, massage, etc. Then, of course, as I said, she has this artistic temperament. She makes special T-shirts, hand-painted T-shirts for people. And when I mentioned earlier about how my grandchildren gave me a T-shirt, it was made by Alka along with the children who put the hand patches on the back of the T-shirt. As far as Anshu is concerned, a very hard-working person who got into spirituality by just me introducing her to one of my pediatric colleagues, Dr. Jar Master, who was into Christian Science. And since then, she has become very much interested in Christian Science, and that I have seen has helped her grow spiritually. And I now consider her actually to be my spiritual partner, you know. When I say hardworking, her day begins very early. She would first go either to school or do online classes these days, you know, then go for a special tuition in the evening, you know. Then for Sunday, she has started preparing the day before for her Sunday church class, where she teaches school children. And now she has been given another big responsibility in the church, in Christian Science, to propagate the ideas which she has imbibed by reading the Bible, how prayer helps in healing. About Vivek, your partner, Thomas, I can't forget him. Even these pictures over here, which are just on this wall, were taken by him, and he was such a wonderful, affectionate human being. Whether it's a question of his dog Galia, or whether it is father or mother of Vivek Anand, his partner, we always felt as if he was son. And the same thing we are feeling about Darren. When I look at his blue eyes, I again sometimes feel as if he was my son. So I have to say that God provides my family with the right type of people, and I am very grateful to God for that.
How was it to teach pediatrics in various hospitals?
Well, now that I see many of my students in India and abroad practicing pediatrics, having learned something from me, I feel very satisfied, because quite a few of them have excelled. In fact, in some ways, they are even better than me, and I'm very, very happy about that. We have a chapter in the Indian Academy of Pediatrics Adolescent Health Academy, Adolescent Health Academy. This is a chapter of the Indian Academy of Pediatrics. They have a website. So one Dr. Tuteja, he reviewed Asha's book, 1959, A Love Story, on that website. And I was surprised to see so many of my students or those who came in contact with me or listened to me in a conference giving their opinions, how much they learned the way I was practicing my profession. To give you a very simple example, one of them said I was sitting with him and I saw a patient coming there and he did not prescribe any medicine. And actually the patients were very happy. And now, honestly, when I read about that, quite a few patients who come to me, even now on phone because of this pandemic, they say we contact you because you don't write unnecessary medicines or do not ask for unnecessary investigations, etc. So I think it was very, very satisfying to teach pediatrics, and I am very happy that many of them have done well in their life.
And can you tell us about your experience as a pediatrician in private practice?
Well, for that, I would recommend people can go to the YouTube and look for the Grand Master series, An Ageless Pediatrician. And they will get idea about how I go about and they will get answer to your question.
What were your experiences with children who were in an orphanage and then underwent adoption?
Well, I served St. Joseph's Home Orphanage for about 20 years. When I joined them, I found that many Indians were hesitant to adopt children. And we saw more and more foreigners adopting Indian children. Some of them even adopted differently abled children. For example, one family adopted a child who had cerebral palsy. So I got an opportunity to go abroad because sometimes we used to hear that they are not looked after well, they are treated as servants. So I and my wife, we both went to those countries to meet the families, to meet the social workers who had referred the children to us for adoption. We even went to meet the school teachers to find out about the child who was going to their school. And we were fully satisfied that these children were looked after very well. I was talking about a child with cerebral palsy. The parents even got a horse for the child to learn more and more and be more confident about how to handle difficult aspects of life. Fortunately, now more and more with our efforts and encouraging people to adopt, more and more Indians have started also adopting Indian children, and I'm very happy about that. We are talking of encouraging people to adopt. Now I will tell you how some people decide to adopt us. For example, we have Rekha Shahani, now Rekha Jagashia. She saw something in both of us, me and Asha, as if we were like her parents who are no more. And she decided to adopt both of us as her parents, you know. She retired as a principal of a school, and now she is working beautifully with an organization called Public Concern for Governance Trust in helping children inculcate values from an early age. Also, with other school teachers through moral rearmament, now called Initiative of Change, in a program called Education Today, Society Tomorrow. And similarly, there is another young girl, Niana. When she met Asha, she felt as if she was her mother and asked her, can I call you Ma? And she now has adopted her as her mother and calls her Ma. And then I talked to you about Dr. Tuteja. I don't know how he somehow, after knowing about my life from my birth in Amritsar, he asked me if he could adopt me as his younger brother. Now it's interesting. I was the youngest of all my brothers and sisters in my family, and I didn't have a younger brother. And now I have a younger brother, and Dr. Tuteja, whom I now call with his pet name Jinder, he calls me Virji.
What were your encounters with differently abled children and their families like?
Well, let me just give you two examples. One is about a child with cerebral palsy. Mithu Alu's daughter was seen by me, and I found that she had cerebral palsy. But together we worked to look after her, and we found she was a very intelligent girl. And Mithu set up this Spastic Society of India, and I started teaching over there the staff about cerebral palsy and how we can take care of these children and how they can not only be of help to themselves but also help others. And here was an example. For example, Mithu's daughter, as she grew up, she now is heading the center for spastic children and guiding so many people how to take care of such children. As far as the second example is concerned, is of Sandhya Sharma. She had a child with Down syndrome. I had seen this child at birth, and naturally, sometimes parents can get disturbed. But with support that she got from us, she came to realize that yes, he is different from other children. He is not anything which cannot do anything in life. And with gradual training, she understood that he can learn many things in life, which he did. Not only that, she also set up a small organization where she helped other mothers having Down syndrome in Mumbai to not to get upset having a child with Down syndrome, but how to help the child to give the best and realize his or her best potential. Now she is in America and her son is doing very well. And I'm so happy to keep hearing news. Whenever Kunal does something special, we are the first one to get information. For example, when he got award for his karate. We were the first to get that information. So I think I had a good experience, and I like this term differently able children rather than disabled children.
Can you share a few turning points in your life and the impact these have had on you?
Well, earlier I have mentioned about my brother Roshan Lal, how he took me away from playing marbles and flying kites in Amritsar to Delhi so that I can have better education and do well in life, for which I am very grateful. So I think that was a very important turning point in my life. Um, Next was again related to one of my brothers, the eldest brother, Ramnath Anand. At that time, I was abroad doing my postgraduate studies. And I don't know why, every time I'll get a letter from him, he always used to say, a scout always whistles, this shall also pass. Now, he knew I was a scout when I was in school, that's okay. But why should he write every time, a scout always whistles, this shall also pass? And it was very helpful because I was looking for a job, and a friend of mine from Patna Medical College in UK, he was working there and he was junior to me. So he said, sir, either the job khali hai, you are welcome. You just come in this department, there is a job, and you come and you can join the department. But when I went there, the poor fellow, my junior, he was looking very sad. I said, what happened? He said, no, at the last minute, my boss got a phone from his other colleague from the other department that he wanted one English boy, a white boy, to get the job rather than giving it to someone else. So I was disappointed and I saw the first instance of racial discrimination. Anyway, I came back home. Fortunately, I again remembered my brother, Scout always whistle, this shall also pass. And exactly this happened. I got a much better job. I'm glad I did not join that. I got a much better job in a teaching institution in the Department of Pediatrics. And that definitely helped me to pass my examination later on. My postgraduate examination is UK. So I'm very again grateful, and that I think was a very important turning point. And I would recommend everyone to remember, Scout always whistle, keep smiling, and if there are difficulties, remember this shall also pass. The next turning point was very important in my life. I thought I was brought out properly with values in life, and I was very pleased with myself till I started finding problems with the head of my departments in the Nair Hospital, Professor Shantilal Sheth. I thought he was always after my blood, and I somehow developed bitterness and hatred against him. At that time, a young man saw me in an office. He had never seen me before, but he was connected with an organization, Moral Rearmament, which is now called Initiative of Change. And he used to have a quiet time every morning, listening to his inner voice, which he learned from MRA, Moral Rearmament. And next morning, when he was having his quiet time, I came in his mind that contact that guy who was dressed in a suit, that smart guy, he said to me later on, and he contacted me. And then he introduced me to a doctor from Ireland who was also connected with moral rearmament. And when I sat with this doctor, he learned that I was having problem with my professor. So he invited me to a conference in Panchgani at the Moral Rearmament Center, which is called Asia Plateau. And there I had a very interesting session next morning itself, where people were talking and sharing their experiences of listening to the inner voice, and some songs are being sung. One song which appealed to me was, "Oh, when I point my finger at my neighbor, there are three more pointing back at me." And then a man spoke. He said, if the other person is 90% wrong, you are only 10% wrong. It's easy for you to begin, isn't it? So now I also learned to listen to my inner voice. So next morning when I was having my quiet time, Professor Shantilal Sheth came into my mind. Yes, Dr. Anand, you are blaming your professor. Okay, he was wrong, maybe even 90% wrong, but could you be 10% wrong? And I said, yes, of course, maybe more than 10%, because I had developed so much hatred and bitterness against him that I all the time was thinking about him, telling people about him, etc., etc. Then the thought came, write a letter to him apologizing for your bitterness and hatred from Panchgani itself, and I did. I must tell you, Vivek, that day was a turning point in my life. I became free person, no hatred, no bitterness against anyone. And then from this free man came such idea of helping people in the orphanage. I talked about people working in the people staying in the Wali BDD Chawl, working in Tara village in Panvel, near Panvel, helping the poor people, working with consumer organizations, working with breastfeeding promotion nationally and internationally, fighting against corruption, communalism by founding an organization called Public Concern for Governance Trust. All this started after I started listening to the inner voice and apologized where I was wrong. And I just really learned the lesson which Gandhiji always used to talk about, be the change. So that was the next turning point. Then, of course, I mentioned about my sister, how she introduced me to Gandhiji through the prayer meeting and Gandhiji's life. And that's how I developed interest in communal harmony, and that is one of the object for which I work with the Public Concern for Governance Trust. The next turning point was very important. Me and Asha decided to go to Dhanu for a holiday. Dhanu is near Bombay. And I knew that in Dhanu, one of my students, Dr. Mrs. Shah, was practicing there, living in Dhanu. So I thought we shall meet her. And then I went to her house. When we reached there, we found a class on Bhagavad Gita was going on. And it was being run by a real student of Swami Dayanandji, Shri Rammohanji. And I enjoyed the class. And after he finished the class, I said, Rammohanji, where do you stay? He said, he lives in Mumbai. I said, do you also have a class in Bombay? He said, yes, I have a class every Thursday, and you can come and join. So I went there and attended the class. Again, I was so happy to get a spiritual experience by his teaching. And then I talked to my wife, and she was also interested. And she said, why can't we have classes in our own home if he is willing? So then I requested Ramonji that I was talking to my wife that both of us will be very happy if you could have a class in our home where I could invite all my friends to listen to what you teach. And Ramonji agreed, and Asha helped conduct those classes in Vedanta regularly, continuously for 15 years. And that was again a real turning point when my interest in spirituality grew, and which has helped me for what I am today.
For children, activities have moved from the outdoors to the indoors, and nutrition has suffered. What changes would you like to suggest to make the children have a healthy lifestyle?
I think for that the parents have to set an example of healthy and happy living. And I have stressed this point again and again in my book, Dr. R.K. Anand's Guide to Child Care. And I will strongly recommend parents to read that and set an example. For example, in one of the chapters, I say lead, where L stands for love, E for example, A for acceptance, D for discipline. It is very true that with this change in lifestyle, I see a lot of children having vitamin D deficiency because they don't get enough sun exposure. This is even before the pandemic. It's just not because of the pandemic only. Also, too much of screen time. My colleagues in the Indian Academy of Pediatrics have done studies to show how it affects their eyes, and the other activities. So I think parents should take this matter seriously, but it can only be done by setting an example themselves, by living a life which is healthy life, happy life, joyful life.
Patients sometimes are said to be losing trust in medical professionals because some specialists play safe by conducting multiple tests up front. What would you like to suggest to change the situation?
Well, for that, I have one request to my professional colleagues. As I mentioned earlier, also, if they see any child or any patient for that matter and feel as if this was their own relative, their own child, their own father or mother, would they ask for an investigation or not? So that helps in avoiding unnecessary investigations. But I also would request the parents of children or relatives of patients, when they go to a doctor, if they feel comfortable with the doctor, whom they have known for quite some time, yes, go ahead. But if they are not comfortable with what the doctor is suggesting, they should not hesitate to take a second opinion. That's all.
How did your professional life impact or influence your values in your personal life?
I refer to my book, Dr. R. K. Anand's Guide to Child Care. In that, in the foreword, my friend Mr. Rusi Lala has written that Dr. Anand believes in Ishwar Arpan Buddhi and Prasad Buddhi. And really, when a patient comes to me, I thank the Almighty that this child has come to me, and I am being used as Lord's instrument to help this family and this child, Ishwar Arpan Buddhi. So that helps me to give the best to my child patient. and then do my best, then following the Bhagavad Gita, Karmanyavadikaraste, Mahaphaleshu Kadachana, consider whatever decision. If the child gets better, thank the Lord as if this is a prasad from the Lord. But if the child is not doing well, don't hesitate to take another opinion. Now the same thing has helped me in my day-to-day life. So again, do your best and then wait for the result. If it is what you thought should happen, thank the Lord. If it is not as what you thought, maybe God has different plans for you, and look for other alternatives, discuss with others if required. So I think this attitude of Ishwar Arpan Buddhi, Prasad Buddhi has helped me in my professional as well as my daily life.
What is the secret to your calm disposition and amazing marriage?
Well, as far as calm disposition is concerned, I think it is because of the spiritual input I had from some of the spiritual guides like Colonel Ishwaran, Ramonji, Jia Raoji, and Vanita Asrani. So that was one. Secondly, I think personally reading the spiritual texts regularly. For example, I make it sure that as far as possible, I read at least 5 verses of the Bhagavad Gita every day. And I like the English translation of the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Chinmayananji, and it has helped me definitely to develop a calmer disposition. I also have been helped a lot by the Serenity Prayer, and I recommend it strongly to all those who are listening to me, which goes something like this: God, grant me the serenity to change the things. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things which I cannot change. Courage to change the things which I can, and wisdom to know the difference. It has helped me a lot as far as my calm disposition is concerned. And then, of course, I make sure I have time for daily meditation and a quiet time. And quiet time, which I learned from moral rearmament or initiative of change, and from Gandhiji talking about listening and writing down what your inner voice tells you to do so. Now, as far as happy marriage is concerned, I will say one is that somehow naturally we have been supporting each other lovingly and enjoying doing so. So I think that was one. Secondly, which is also equally important, forgiveness. Because there are occasions when you might be not so happy the way the other person has communicated. And that has to be also kept in mind. And here a quotation from Ruth Bill Graham has helped me a lot. It goes like this: a happy marriage is the union of two forgivers. A happy marriage is the union of two forgivers.
Were there any occasions when you lost your cool and were angry? And how did you learn empathy?
About anger, I can remember a few instances. For example, when I was working in general medicine in Patna Medical College Hospital, where adult patients are there, one man was admitted with convulsions, fits. and he was put on the bed. But I noticed that the railing on the bed was only on one side. So I told the sister, the nurse, that sister, there is a risk he may fall down because there is no railing on the other side. So then together we decided to put the patient at the end of the ward, near the wall. So one side the wall protects him, other side the railing. When the relatives came to see the patient, they wanted to see me, so I went there, and they were very angry. He says, "Doctor, I'm very angry with you." I said, "Why? What happened?" You see, my patient was having the fan just above him, and it's so hot here. And you put another patient over there, and my patient was just sent into the corner where there is no fan above that. I will raise this question in the assembly, and action will be taken against you. And I just slapped him. Now, looking back, I think I could have handled it differently. I could have said, well, this was the reason why it was done, but I can understand it's very hot. So I request you to bring a table fan from home. We will allow you to use it. We'll put it on a stool there near the patient, and that will be helpful. Second instance I remember is I saw a mother in the children ward where also I was working later with the child, having a physician sample bottle next to her. So I asked her, "Mataji, ये आपको कहाँ से मिला?" तो बोली, "वो बाहर जो दुकान है दवा वाला वहाँ से मिला." "आपने कितना पैसा दिया?" She told me some figure, no, I don't remember that. So I told the nurse, "Sister, take care of this child. I am taking this mother to the chemist shop." Because I was very angry that a chemist selling a physician sample, which should have been given free. And I asked the mother, "Kinse liya aapne?" And she pointed out to that man, the chemist. "Kitna ruपया आपने दिया उनको?" She told the figure. So I told this chemist, "Is this right?" And his jaw fell down. And I was very angry and told him, "Return whatever money you have taken from her and make sure you don't do this in future." So that was the next instance. Later, when I came to Bombay and started working and teaching in the Nair Hospital, along with my two other very wonderful colleagues, Dr. R.P. Agarwal and Dr. R.D. Poddar. Dr. Agarwal, full of ethics, a gentleman par excellence. But the dean reported something against him, which was not right. She actually accused him of some negligence. And both Dr. Poddar and I felt we could be accused of something, but not this man who has always been so honest, hardworking, having full empathy for his patient. So both of us asked Dr. Agarwal, we used to call him Rajan, "Rajan, I think this is very unfair on the part of the dean, and we will go to the dean and all three of us will resign from this hospital." And which we did. And this news was splashed all over the newspapers. And this was the other incident where I thought anger was justified. As far as apathy is concerned, I think again it was because of my sister who taught me Vaishnav Jan to tene kahiye. Just the first two lines give you that mantra. Vaishnav Jan to tene kahiye je पीड़ पराई जाने रे पर दुखे उपकार करे तोए पर दुखे उपकार करे तोए मन अभिमान न आने रे वैष्णव जन तो तेने कही पीड़ पराई जाने रे. And I'm so glad Bollywood took up this theme and they had this song, and just again the first two lines I will sing. किसी की मुस्कुराहटों पे हो निसार, किसी का दर्द मिल सके तो ले उधार, किसी के वास्ते हो तेरे दिल में प्यार, जीना इसी का नाम है. And I was so happy when I rang one of my ex-students who had now become the dean of the hospital. And when I rang her, the signature tune was this, किसी की मुस्कुराहटों पे हो निसार. So this is how I feel about empathy, and it's good for my own soul, my own heart, my peace of mind, and of course all those with whom I come in contact with.
Could you share your experience with a few people in your life who have mentored or influenced you?
The first person who comes to my mind is Dr. Dayal. That was in Delhi. He was a general practitioner. So, as a child, whenever I would go to just see him for myself, I would always notice that how he will receive me with a lovely smile. I even now remember that, And I think that way he really mentored me without saying anything. And I value that very much. And now many of my patients have said that, doctor, your smile somehow we appreciate, and so do the other members of our family. So that was Dr. Dayal. Next, I would say Professor Muhammad Abdul Hai. Again, excellent physician and excellent human being. I remember having gone to him to talk to me about my father, and he called me in while he was examining a patient. The patient was facing the wall. His back was towards Professor Hai, and he was doing percussion. When we examine the patients, sometimes we do that. So after doing that, the patient is still sitting like that. He says, अच्छा आपने कहा कि आप दरभंगा से आते हैं. जी हजूर. अच्छा वहाँ एक वकील साहब रहते थे, वो ये नाम के मुझे नाम तो अभी भूल गया, वो अभी भी हैं? हाँ हजूर अभी भी हैं और बहुत अच्छे वकील हैं. हाँ. So I was really surprised. So many patients are waiting outside, and this man is making this patient feel so comfortable, and as if he has the whole time for this particular patient. And again, I think that has helped me not to rush my patients, because many times patients complain that these days whenever we go to someone, they're all the time wanting to push it out quickly and see more and more patients. So that was one aspect of Professor Hai. The second aspect, once he came to our home to see my father, तो मुझे बोलते हैं कि राजकुमार, and incidentally he always called me by my first name, राजकुमार, घर में कोई चटाई है? मैंने कहा सर है ना, पर किस लिए? अरे बहुत से पेशेंट को देखना पड़ा, बाहर विजिट करना पड़ा, तो अभी नमाज का टाइम हो गया, इसलिए मैं पूछ रहा था। तो फटाफट मैं चटाई ले गया और वहाँ लटा दी और उन्होंने वहाँ नमाज पढ़ी। एंड अगेन वी वर feeling blessed, that our home has been purified by this man, The third aspect which I remember of Professor Hai, the way he mentored me, he has retired. And I just go to pay my respect to him. And what do I see? On the floor is a chatai, and Hai Saab is sitting there, books of anatomy, physiology, biochemistry lying around. तो मैंने कहा सर ये सब क्या है? कहता है राजकुमार प्रैक्टिस में इतना बिजी हो जाते थे कि टाइम ही नहीं मिलता था, तो हमने कहा कि यार फिर से वो सब पढ़ लें और कुछ फिर से सीखें. And again, even now I keep reading the latest on what is happening in the field of pediatrics, and that keeps me up to date in my profession. So again, I can't forget that old man sitting with all books which we used to read when we were in first MBBS or so. Then I can't forget Professor Gopal Sharan. I used to work in his unit in the children's hospital in Patna, and I saw a child. It was a typical story suggestive of pyogenic meningitis. The child was perfectly all right 3-4 days ago and suddenly developed severe headache and then started vomiting and became unconscious. And when I examined the child, had all the signs of meningitis. So I did a lumbar puncture and sent for examination. But when the report came, it shows TB meningitis. Now Professor Sharan, Gopal Sharan came for the round, and I gave him this story, the history, clinical examination, but an unusual report. So he said, Raj, he used to call me Raj, I agree with you. This picture fits in with pyogenic meningitis. I think there is some mistake somewhere. So let's go to the pathology department. See this man. He takes me and we start going towards the pathology department of our hospital. And opposite to us is coming Dr. Avdesh Sharan. So Avdesh Sharan and they were very close to each other. So Dr. Avdesh Sharan asked Dr. Gopal Sharan, अरे गोपाल, वो तुम्हारा पेशेंट pyogenic meningitis का कैसा है? So excuse me for using this language, but this is what Dr. Sharan told Avdesh Sharan. साला तुम रिपोर्ट देता है टीबी मेनिंजाइटिस का और मुझे पूछ रहा है मेरा पेशेंट पायोजेनिक मेनिंजाइटिस का कैसा है. So Avdesh said, sorry, there must be some mistake. Let's go back to the department. And we all went to the department, and by mistake, the report of some others, there was some confusion and a wrong report had come to us. And then we got the right report, which was pyogenic meningitis. Again, what I learned from Dr. Sharan, respect even your younger colleague, go with the clinical judgment of the whole case, then together do what is needed in the interest of the patient, in the interest of science, and make sure that your colleague also don't do wrong things in future. So these are the people, I would say, who really mentored me. Of course, there are others also, but I can't forget these three.
Looking back, what aspects of the Gandhian legacy most affected you?
I have learned a lot from Gandhiji's life, and I'm very grateful for that. But few things which come to my mind now is his empathy for the poor and the marginalized. Always thinking of poverty, discrimination against the marginalized people. Next was always he stressed, be the change if you want to see the change in the world. Begin with your own life rather than finding fault with everyone else. And third, importance given to communal harmony, which he used to call as communal unity, ekta, jo tode bhi na toote, dili ekta, he used to say that. And then, of course, I learned from him, fight injustice, but without taking recourse to violence. And this has really helped me in fighting, whether it's the pharmaceutical companies or whether it's baby food companies or whether examples which I have given to you before. But of course, I always keep learning where I could have done better.
Can you tell us about your passion for fighting injustice and how that showed up in your medical and social work and also in your consumer activist and breastfeeding activist work?
It seems, Vivek, that fighting injustice was in my blood. Thus, I fought against emergency along with like-minded friends. And after that, I started seeing how the child was exploited by baby food companies and by pharmaceutical companies. For instance, while teaching at the Nile Hospital, seeing children, I found there was so much difference between babies who were breastfed and artificially fed. The morbidity was much more in those who were artificially fed, although most of them came from the lower socioeconomic group, and it was very sad to see that. Then I also started seeing the way these baby food manufacturers were exploiting people. I went to see a film at Metro Cinema in Mumbai, then Bombay, and before the film was shown, there was an ad about Glaxo baby food, and there was music going behind, the lovely babies being shown one after another, smiling, healthy, and these lines going on. You can always tell Glaxo baby, Bonnie baby. You can always tell Glaxo baby, Bonnie baby. So I wondered at that time, imagine if there were young girls sitting in the audience in the cinema hall, watching these healthy babies, such sweet babies. They may start thinking, oh, when I will get married, when I will baby like this, and how I will feed them with this baby milk powder. So I started noticing what was happening. Um, so then I also, in the meanwhile, had joined the Rotary Club of Bombay North, and we had started a center at the Wali BDD Chawl, a health center, along with a very good social worker, Usha Shah. And there again, I noticed babies who were breastfed were definitely more healthy, although the socio-economic condition of all of them was the same. I also noticed babies whose fathers were alcoholic, they suffered. I also noticed that babies whose mothers were at least partly educated, at least up to middle class, their babies was definitely more healthy. So I started seeing the disparity as far as the economy is concerned and the way of living was concerned. In the meanwhile, I had mentioned to you earlier that how I did not believe in cut practice, but fortunately I started getting patients from doctors who didn't believe it, did not believe in it. And one such doctor was Dr. Gigi Parekh. He came to know about me, and then I learned that he was a social activist, and he was quite concerned about injustice to people in the tribal regions of our country. And he had a center called Yusuf Mehrari Center in a village called Thara beyond Panvel, where they aimed at helping people from the tribal areas to live a healthy life and at the same time fight injustice and live the right way and help them to improve their economy. So I then offered my services to them, and I started going to Tara village to see these children coming from different regions around Tara, and that was a very satisfying experience, and I felt that yes, we could definitely help them. Um, as all this was happening, I was fortunate to join the Consumer Guidance Society of India. And through that, International Organization of Consumer Union, where Anwar Fazal was very active. And he became a very close friend, and even now our friendship continues. Later it became Consumer International, and my connection with them continued. And then some of us who were doctors, they came out of Consumer Guidance Society of India because we were interested mainly in health issues. So we formed the organization called Akash, Association of Consumers, relating mainly to health issues, for safety and health, And then I had the privilege to go to the World Health Assembly through the Consumer Guidance Society of India, through Akash, and through International Organization of Consumer Union, where we worked for the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitute. Because then the whole world realized that the marketing of these baby foods must be controlled, and we proposed this International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitute after a lot of meetings, conferences, etc. And fortunately, again, we could get it passed, And I come back to India, and then we thought that our government should also take active part in it. And I became a member of the government committee formulating a code for baby foods. And this was Infant Milk Substitute Act, which was again passed by our government and became a law. Later on, they started exploiting children's parents about complementary foods, follow formulas, then this code was further modified. As all this was happening, WABA was formed, World Alliance for Breastfeeding Action. And then we worked throughout the world. I went with friends like Helen Armstrong, Dr. Felicity Savage, in educating people around the world for protection, promotion, and support for breastfeeding. And that was again a great experience, and I'm sure we found that our efforts were worth in that connection. And of course, my interest with WABA continued. At present, I am co-chair of the International Advisory Council of WABA.
What are you most passionate about? When do you feel connected to life the most? Or what's your ikigai?
Well, fighting corruption, communalism, and casteism. Keeping this in mind, I, along with two other like-minded friends, one Mr. B.G. Deshmukh and the other Mr. Julio Ribeiro, we founded a trust called Public Concern for Governance Trust to fight corruption, communalism, casteism, and we now regularly get interns who work with us for a 1 month, mostly from the law colleges, and guide them how they can use their own profession, the legal profession, in fighting these issues, especially fighting corruption and casteism. And of course, communalism in their own life when they start thinking that we are all one. You know, though our prophets may say the same thing in a different way, but we are all one. Secondly, I would like to communicate to as many people as possible the secret of finding permanent happiness through spirituality and healthy living. And I have had a personal experience how it is helpful to remain healthy and happy and pass on the same message to people around you.
So, what is your mantra of life, and from where do you derive your energy to make things happen?
First is trust in the higher power. And secondly, a disciplined life with healthy habits. When I say trust in a higher power, I refer to Wali BDD Charles earlier, and there from resident there I learned this in Marathi. Biu nakos mi tujya patishi ahe. This was, he told me from Swami Samarth, which means, don't be afraid, I am at your back. The Lord is saying, I am at your back. And really now I constantly feel as if there is a higher power all the time with me, behind me, in front of me, to guide me how to my life live effectively, joyfully, and happily.
Can you tell us about your spiritual journey?
Well, I think it started from my childhood when I was in school, and I used to take food for my nani, my mother's mother, who had taken sannyas and lived in a temple, Krishna temple. And Krishna playing his flute with a smile on his face has always remained in my mind all the time and just keep me happy, smiling as far as possible, facing life with a smile, you know. Difficulties may come, But that statue of Krishna, which I had seen there, always remains in my mind. But the incident I want to mention is that once when I went to meet my Nani, she said, "Beta, next door एक बूढ़ी औरत है, उसको कुछ मदद चाहिए, बहुत कमज़ोर है, इधर जाओ, if you can help, उसको अगर कुछ मदद कर सको." तो जब मैं गया, सच्ची मैं तो छोटा सा था, स्कूल में पढ़ता था, उसको देख के ही मुझे डर लगा, as if she was a witch, you know. And on top of that, she said, "अच्छा, तुम मुझे मदद करने आए हो, तो ये मेरे बर्तन साफ करो." So I had to wash her utensils. तो ये राजकुमार आनंद ने किया, लेकिन आज भी वो जिसको मैं विच कह रहा हूँ, आज भी मुझे लगता है कि जैसे मुझे अपनी ब्लेसिंग दे रही हो. And I have a feeling that was my first step towards spirituality, where we say that sense control followed by selfless service, you know. And I'm very grateful for that. So I remember that all the time. Then, of course, I mentioned earlier how in Delhi my sister kept me on the spiritual path, especially by all the time relating to Gandhiji. And here in Mumbai, in the Nair Medical College, it was interesting that one of my colleagues working in the Department of Speech Therapy, she came in contact with Colonel Ishwaran. And she requested Colonel Ishwaran if he could have a class on Bhagavad Gita once a week, which those interested could attend. So when I came to know, I started attending that. And Colonel Ishwaran was very fond of Swami Vivekananda. He would always refer to him and his life, and he gave us even books to read about him. And I also came to know about Swami Vivekananda to a great extent and developed a lot of respect for that individual, that person, Swami Vivekananda ji. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, how Ramonji came in our life and how other spiritual teachers guided us on the right path. So I think this is how the journey took place, which still continues.
Do you believe in miracles? Have you had any in your personal life?
Well, I can tell you about one. Once I had a dream. As I told you earlier that I was developing a lot of respect for Swami Vivekananda, and in the dream I see Swamiji walking on the road along with another person. But Swami was not wearing turban in that dream that I saw, because always I have seen his pictures with a turban on, but I could recognize that it was Swami Vivekananda. So I asked him, "Swamiji, where are you going?" And Swamiji said, "I'm going for a lecture." And I was so happy. You know, our dream sometimes can be so real. Oh, how fortunate I am that I'll be able to hear Swamiji in person. And then the dream ended. Next morning, I go to Jaslok Hospital for my routine duties. And at the reception, I was given a letter. And in this letter, I saw an invitation for me to give a lecture in an institution in Calcutta, in a medical institution in Calcutta, associated with the Ramakrishna Mission. Dream at night, Swami Vivekananda. Next morning, I get an invitation to speak and me to give a lecture in an institution, a medical institution, connected with the Ramakrishna Mission. Anyway, I go there, and there the Swamiji who was in charge, um, he asked me to meet him, and then I shared with him the dream that I had in Mumbai. So he said, "My child, you are blessed. Tell me, have you been to Belur Math?" I said, "No, Swamiji, never." "You must go. I will arrange the car for you, and you must visit Belur Math." So I was very happy. I was taken to Belur Math, and a special guide was given to take me around. And imagine, on one of the walls, I see Swamiji's picture without a turban along with his disciple. And this was the picture which I saw. On the wall. So I asked the Swamiji who was in charge of Belur Math, "Swamiji, can I get a copy of that photograph of Swamiji with his disciples without wearing a turban?" He said yes. I said, "You could kindly post it to me," and I gave my address. And I said, "How much will it cost?" Swamiji said, 15 rupees. It's years ago. And that's how I got this picture, which is my prized possession, you know. And then, after seeing this photograph on the wall, I am coming down with the guide, and someone speaks to me from behind, "Is this Dr. Anand?" I turn around, I said, "Yes, I'm Dr. Anand." So this was a young man. He said, "Sir, you were my examiner in my MD in pediatrics." So I said, "Did you pass?" Yes, sir, I passed. And not only that, I was blessed. I said, "What way?" He said, "Sir, you had thought that those who pass the exam, they will be given a small booklet about Swami Vivekananda." And I had the privilege to get it. And that developed my interest in Swami Vivekananda, the Ramakrishna Mission. And now I come and serve here as much as I can.
For many years, you have been studying the Bhagavad Gita. Have you also explored other religious or spiritual practices?
Well, Vivek, I have read several commentaries on Bhagavad Gita by many people, including Gandhiji. I have also read scriptures of other religions, also talked to friends from different religions. But the more I read, I seem to come to the conclusion that they are all trying to say the same thing. But sadly, some people misinterpret their scriptures. Even through songs, I have learned from many friends from different religions. For example, there's a song where the poet is asking God, "What makes you people so drunk with you that they do so many things?" "जिसे पी के सारे दुनिया तेरे दर पे झूमती है, मेरे साकिया बता दे, वो शराब कौन सी है, जिसे पी के सारे दुनिया." In the end, these lines have always interested me. तेरा दामने गदाई, मेरा दामने गदाई, तेरे आगे क्यों न फैले कि तू दो जहां का मालिक, तेरे दर पे क्या कमी है जिसे पी के सारी दुनिया. Why should I hesitate to ask you? तो वो तो लेकिन कहता है ऐ सोइला फिर मांग ऐ सोइला फिर मांग हरदम हमारे फजलो करम का, हरदम हमारे फजलो करम का जारी है दरिया. फिर मांग तो वो तो कहता है. तो इसलिए डोंट हेजिटेट. लेकिन हाँ, not with selfish interest, with a pure mind, and you will get, my child. This is I'm learning from all different religions. Then from my Sikh friend I learned Sadguru परकटिया मिटी तुंद जग चानन होया. Sadguru परकटिया मिटी तुंद जग चानन होया. Then a friend who is very fond of Kabir, from him I learned लाली मेरे लाल की जिस देखूं तित लाल, लाली देखकर मैं गई मैं भी हो गई लाल. जैसे हमारी हिंदू बहनें अक्सर गाती हैं, सब कुछ है तेरा स्वामी सब कुछ है तेरा, तेरा तुझको अर्पण, तेरा तुझको अर्पण क्या लागे मेरा. और हमारे मुस्लिम फ्रेंड अपने तरीके से यही चीज़ कहते हैं, तू रहम का दरिया है, रहमत तेरी न्यारी है. तू रहम का दरिया है, रहमत तेरी न्यारी है. क्या पेश करूं तुझको क्या चीज़ हमारी है, ये दिल भी तुम्हारा है, ये जान भी तुम्हारी है. तो खुदा ऐसे बंदे को बोलता है, अच्छा सब कुछ मेरा है, ये दिल भी, तो जा मेरे बच्चे इस दिल को मोहब्बत से भर दे, बांट सारी दुनिया में, चाहे कि वो हिंदू हो, मुसलमान हो, सिख हो, पारसी हो, जा मेरा काम कर. तो मैं तो देखता हूँ कि द मोर आई डिस्कस विद फ्रेंड्स फ्रॉम डिफरेंट रिलीजन्स, रीड डिफरेंट स्क्रिप्चर्स including the Bhagavad Gita, I come to the conclusion that truth is one, but sages say it differently. As far as I am concerned, now I spend only time reading regularly the commentary on Bhagavad Gita in English by Swami Chinmayanand. I have read it quite a few times, but I make sure that at least 5 verses are read by me every day, and I am fully satisfied with that, which helps me in my growth and my realization as to who I am and coming nearer God, and often feeling presence of Almighty, and often feeling that I am the same as He is. But those friends who decide to read commentary on Bhagavad Gita of Swami Chinmayanand Ji, I have a request. First, go straight to the second chapter rather than starting with a general introduction. Finish the whole chapter, because that will give you almost summary of the entire Gita. Then come to the general introduction, then the first chapter, second, you finish the whole book and then come back. Because again, the last chapter is one of the most beautiful chapters. But I will say every chapter is a gem, and read it. If you have some friends who are also interested, share with them. बस.
What are your thoughts on communal harmony?
Personally, I feel people want peace and communal harmony in general. But there are some who target a certain community, which is very sad. And I'm sorry to say that such incidents are now being seen more and more, and we have to be concerned about it. They don't realize that actually all religions teach the same thing. And I have said repeatedly that truth is one, sages say it differently. For example, let's see, Namaste. We learn, why do we say Namaste? We bow down to the person whom we are giving Namaste with the spirit that I am bowing to the divine in you. And the same divine is in me. So we are both equals, you know. Similarly, one of my Muslim friends said, झुका दे सर उसी के सामने मिल जाए जो कोई, झुका दे सर उसी के सामने मिल जाए जो कोई, अगर सजदा ही करना है तो अल्लाह सब में रहता है, you know. इसलिए हमने फिर एक फिल्म बनाई पब्लिक कंसर्न फॉर गवर्नेंस ट्रस्ट से, PCGT से, जिसमें हमने फिल्म का नाम दिया हम सब एक हैं. और उस फिल्म में देर आर पीपल फ्रॉम डिफरेंट रिलीजन्स, द हेड्स ऑफ दोज रिलीजन्स, हु स्पीक about the message of their own religion. And again, finally, the conclusion comes to the same thing. The truth is one, sages say it differently. In that film, we also learn from the stars, the moon. देखो देखो ये बहारें, ये चमन है सबका, चांद सूरज ये सितारे, ये गगन है सबका सबका, देखो देखो. And the film ends beautifully. उभरे सूरज की तरह कह दो, वतन है सबका. And I will say, उभरे सूरज की तरह कह दो, ये दुनिया ये सबकी है. सूरज डिस्क्रिमिनेट नहीं करता, लेकिन हम भूल जाते हैं. इवन परिंदे डिस्क्रिमिनेट नहीं करते हैं. परिंदों से भी हम सीख सकते हैं. जैसे मेरे एक दोस्त ने मुझे बताया था, परिंदों के यहाँ फ़िरका परस्ती क्यों नहीं होती. परिंदों के यहाँ फ़िरका परस्ती क्यों नहीं थी. कभी मंदिर पे जा बैठे, कभी मस्जिद में बैठे. आप देखिए हाजी अली के पास ही हिंदू लोगों का महालक्ष्मी मंदिर है. वो परिंदा ये नहीं सोचेगा अभी मुझे यहाँ नहीं बैठना, यहाँ नहीं बैठने का. तो हम उनसे भी सीख सकते हैं. इसी तरह जब मैं ऐसे परिंदों को देखता हूँ तो मुझे गाने को मन करता है. पंछी बनूं उड़ती फिरूं मस्त चमन में, आज मैं आज़ाद हूँ दुनिया के चमन में. पस्ती मैं भूल गया. पंछी बनूं उड़ती फिरूं मस्त गगन में, आज मैं आज़ाद हूँ दुनिया के चमन में. बस इसी तरह से मस्त रहिए. सबसे मोहब्बत, सबसे प्यार बहुत ज़रूरत है सारी दुनिया में इसकी, खासकर इस वक्त हमारे मुल्क में.
Thoughts about casteism?
Well, as far as casteism is concerned, in our public concern for governance trust, we often talk of 3 C's: corruption, communalism, and casteism. So it really concerns me, and it should concern any good citizen. It's a shame when you hear that somebody kept a moustache, but because he belonged to the lower caste, the upper caste people thrashed him that how dare you keep a moustache. Uh, so we have to be really worried even about deaths taking place in those who are manual scavengers. Recently, there was a news the increased incidence, the high incidence of deaths among the manual scavengers. And after reading that, we have given our interns uh, a project to study this issue at length so that they also learned about casteism and we also learn what is the present status as far as manual scavengers or people who are doing a similar sort of work in the country are doing. uh, But sometimes people misinterpret even the scriptures. For example, in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, there is a verse 13 which refers to fourfold caste. I have read it again and again, and it is very clear that what Vyasa is trying to say that people have different temperaments and they have based those four so-called castes based on people with different temperaments. As Swami Chinmayananda's commentary clarifies, not by birth is man a Brahman, because we sometime in our country will say Brahman ka beta Brahman hi hoga. So Swamiji says, not by birth is man a Brahman. He alone is a Brahman whose thoughts are as much sattvic or noble as his actions are. I will repeat, not by birth is man a Brahman. He alone is a Brahman whose thoughts are as much sattvic or noble as his actions are. So, as per temperament, we have a spiritual guide, we have a Jawan in our army, we have a businessman, or we have a sweeper, as per their temperament. At the same time, whenever opportunity comes for all of us to see if the temperament of a person is such that he or she can do better in life, we should encourage that. Maybe the person's temperament is such, but he or she did not get opportunity. For example, my son was showing me this book, Caste Matters. In this book, this author is referring to his father, and his father had his father who was an alcoholic, and this young boy, his father, used to give milk in different families and also clean the office spaces of some offices. And his father, once when he was cleaning the floor space in an office, a Muslim man who owned this bank, he asked this man about his education. He said he had studied up to ninth class. So he said, would you like to join our bank as a peon? So he encouraged him because he found there was something different in this boy who was a very intelligent chap and very courteous, and he gave him a job of a peon, and he later on developed so many organization. I will just read it. The banker offered this floor cleaning staffer a job of a peon equivalent to his educational qualification. Eventually, my father was to establish 8 social and cultural organizations, and he began a school for the underprivileged. So I think we should see the tendencies of the individual, the inclinations of the individual, and the temperament of the individual, and then see how best his or her potential can you develop, rather than just say because he was a son of a Brahman, so he is Brahman. Now we are Kshatriya, but my family went into business. So I think it's very important that all of us, especially our younger people, understand that people are different, people have different temperaments, that don't classify them just as per their birth or hereditary, and help them achieve their maximum potential. Vivek, I feel that connected with opportunity, talent, inclination is also overall poverty in our country. No wonder Gandhiji always used to stress that this is also a sin in our country, and each and everyone should do everything, everybody should work to alleviate poverty so that more and more people are educated and their potential is achieved. So I think even the policies of different governments must be conscious that the plight of the poor must be taken care of. Only then they will get opportunity to realize their maximum potential. So I think all of us as a society has to be more concerned to see that the overall socio-economic status of our people is improved.
Can you talk about how caste and poverty are connected to each other?
Oh, okay. Okay. So when we talk about caste and poverty, I have noticed that a sweeper's child will continue to be a sweeper. So that's why we have to ensure that more and more opportunities are given to people, especially from the so-called lower caste, to get more educated so that their maximum potential is realized. Vivek, before we end this discussion on casteism, I want to stress that both casteism and poverty are interrelated. For years, people have forgotten that we are all equal and we must all get equal opportunity, whether it is the Bhagavad Gita which says or whether it is our constitution which says, but social disparities have continued. And that is why Gandhiji all the time used to stress that poor must be taken care of, and our emphasis should always be to make sure that their lot improves. And I feel that all of us should keep that in mind, that just not only talk of casteism, but also improve the overall status of people, the socio-economic status of people. Because for years, what is happening, a sweeper child becomes a sweeper. And they don't get enough opportunity. But we are conscious of the fact that this caste or that caste, yes, because of the different castes, they have been kept at a lower level, they did not get opportunity. We should overall consider that how we can improve the socio-economic status of our people. Unfortunately, caste has been used for years to oppress large number of people, for them not getting adequate health care, education, housing, or respectable job. This must stop. And I think we should do everything possible to ensure that there is true equality and there is no discrimination based on the label of lower caste.
How do you stay healthy?
I would like to read a few points which I have written for all of you. I'm now 87-year-old. Years ago, I had met one of my professors from Patna, Dr. A.N. Sinha. We were talking about life, etc. And he gave me 3 mantras for the silvers, for the aged. And after coming here, I had written an article based on that, this article. And this can be had by anyone by sending a mail to publicconcern@gmail.com. In that, it's mentioned, number 1, swasth raho, be fit. 2, vyast raho, be busy. 3, mast raho, keep smiling. And then, of course, details are given as to how to remain fit, etc. Number 2, a constant feeling, day and night feeling, that the higher power is with me and is guiding me. So I am never alone. And I will get the right direction for my day, for my time, for my life. 3, regular habits. 4, minimal time for TV, phone, and newspapers. I remember in school we used to read an essay, I don't know, probably it was by Ruskin, that newspapers are printed in a hurry and they should be read in a hurry. So minimal time for TV, phone, and newspapers. 5, no hatred or criticism. Yet we must oppose wrong, but this should be done without any malice against anyone. 6, singing or whistling. In that connection, my daughter-in-law, Anshu, whom I would like to call my daughter, she once taught me a hymn. And I love 2 lines from that hymn. It is this: let me sing my way to thee, thy pure, happy child. Let me sing my way to thee, thy pure, happy child.
What would be your advice to the younger folks who are getting started on their professional and personal journey of life?
First of all, cut down your needs for money, fame, and power. Second, remain a student all your life. Keep learning, even from your mistakes, without feeling guilty. I still make mistake, my wife will tell you. But with God's grace, I keep learning so that I make less and less mistakes as days pass by. Number 3, follow God's guidance for each day and for each moment to remain on the right path, to take the right decision.
What is your favorite quote?
I'll tell you 2. One is, if you want to be happy, love. If you want others to be happy, love. Love is the greatest thing in the world. Second, this I learned from a friend. हजारों गम मुझे बदल नहीं सकते, हजारों गम मुझे बदल नहीं सकते, मुझे तो आदत है मुस्कुराने की, बीमारी लगी हुई है. And I found it very helpful.
How do you reconcile your moral ideals with the practical life you have led as a doctor, husband, and father?
At times it can be difficult. I believe in love for all, no criticism, no judgment. And sometimes when I'm sitting in a group and some people are criticizing others right and left, I get annoyed inside. But thank God, a signal comes from within. Keep quiet, let go. Ek chup, so sukh. And that helps. And also, when things are going on, and I find that things are rather difficult, and then the serenity prayer comes to my help, and that is, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things which I cannot change, courage to change the things which I can, and wisdom to know the difference. But it can be difficult at times. And then we just pray, and I have found that an honest prayer, understanding your humility, knowing that you may not be perfect, helps, and God comes to your rescue and things get sorted out.
Who is your favorite athlete?
Late Milkha Singh. Stressing on hard work and being ready to face difficulty, Milkha Singh always said that it is great to have a talent you can hone, but you have to go through fire and come out on the other side to excel in life. And this I will especially point to all younger people who are listening to me.
Could you name the 3 most important happy events of your life which you cherish?
As you all know, I have committed my life to the protection, promotion, and support of breastfeeding. And for that, I have been closely associated all these years for an organization called World Alliance for Breastfeeding Action, in short called WABA. And they have an award called Soul of Breastfeeding Award. And that was a very happy moment for me when I was given that award, Soul for Breastfeeding Award. So that it comes to my mind. Secondly, you know, Asha, my wife had rather difficult time with my elder sister-in-law, my bhabi. But towards the end of her life, she had realized what a wonderful woman Asha was and how she melded into the family and even cared for her and for her children. As she was dying in Mumbai, almost in her lap, she told Asha, बेटी पिछले जन्म में हमने कुछ ज़रूर अच्छे कर्म किए होंगे कि तुम्हारे जैसी बेटी हमारे घर में आई. So that was again a very happy moment for my life, which comes to my mind. Thirdly, again, Asha written this book, 1959, A Love Story. We have a website on Adolescent Health Academy chapter of the Indian Academy of Pediatrics. There, Dr. Tuteja reviewed her book. After reading her book, so many people, some of them my students, some of them my younger colleagues, the way they appreciated the way I led my professional life and the way I lived my life in general was really very satisfying and gave me happiness that the way God has helped me live my life was worth it.
Is there anything you know now that you wish you knew in your 20s?
None.
Do you have any advice for children, grandchildren, and society?
For that, sometime back, I was asked to write an article related to this question. So I had written this article, Mom, Dad, and Me, and this article again can be had by anyone who wants from publicconcern@gmail.com. There I begin with a film I saw a long time ago in Morari Raman, Give a Dog a Bone. In that film, there's a huge big king rat. He has the power to convert anyone into an animal if he or she says, I couldn't care less. And he converted many people into animals like that. But there was a young boy who was very caring, and the king rat was always hovering around him because he was very keen to convert him into an animal. But sadly, in one of his weak moments, the young boy did utter the word, I couldn't care less, turned into an animal. Right above, a spaceman was watching all this. He felt sorry for this good young boy, and he came down when the boy was alone. And he asked, honey, what happened? So he said, see, foolishly I uttered these words, I couldn't care less, and I was made into an animal. Anyway, do you want to again become a human being? Oh yes, I would love to. Okay. Then you have to utter 3 magical words. Please tell me that. Please, thank you, sorry. And spread it all around the world. And the boy said, please, thank you, sorry. And he again became a young boy. So in the article I mentioned, try this experiment after your dinner. Let the whole family sit down and refer to these 3 magical words, please, thank you, sorry. Keep quiet for 10, 15, 20 minutes and then see if any one of you would like to share anything related to these 3 words, please, thank you, and sorry, and things like that. So that is one I suggest. The other is the article I wrote My passion. Again, this available also available from PCGT at publicconcern@gmail.com, which tells one how your passion in life may keep changing, but how the focus for going in the right direction helps. And some people may find this also interesting. But I must tell you a joke which I read from my late dear friend Mr. Kanpur. He had written this book, Aging and the Aged in Good Humor. And there he writes a joke. I'll read it for you. A woman walked up to an elderly man rocking in a chair on his porch. I couldn't help noticing how happy you look, she said. What's your secret for a long, happy life? The man replied, Ma'am, I smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day. I also drink a case of whiskey a week, eat fatty foods, and never exercise. That's amazing, the woman said. How old are you? 26, he replied. So I think it applies to people of all ages.
Which dress makes you feel most confident and most comfortable?
Years ago, I always felt confident and comfortable wearing a tie, whether it was a jacket or a suit. But of late, I feel more comfortable not using a tie and just even with a jacket, have a shirt without any tie. For informal places and at home, I prefer using a kurta and pajama. And for my walks, I prefer shorts and a t-shirt. Vivek, this is the t-shirt I told you about. This is the front portion and this is the back portion. I really love it.
What is your comfort food and why?
It's palak paneer. Maybe right from childhood, the way my mother cooked it, I loved it. And that taste has continued. And then Asha did exactly the same way to cook palak paneer. And now Ram Singh does an equally good job. When you say why, one is of course the taste, but besides that, I think it's a complete food. See, leafy vegetables give you fiber, give you iron, and other vitamins. And paneer, of course, is full with protein, and many other healthy constituents. So I feel it's a complete food that even as a doctor, I would strongly recommend it.
Would you like to tell us a little more about Ram Singh?
Well, Vivek, years ago, I heard a very good lecture. This was after few years of Ram Singh joining us. I liked that lecture very much. But next morning when I woke up, the subject which she spoke was gratitude, and I felt that my heart was full of gratitude to Ram Singh. The way he looked after the kitchen, shopping, wedding, etc. But much more than that, with all love and affection, the way he cared for me and Asha was like a son. I really will pray to God, bless him and his family.
What about Manju?
Manju, like Ram Singh, is our helper. And when you ask me about Manju, my mind takes me back to Jaslo Hospital, where Asha was admitted after she was diagnosed to have lung cancer. And Manju was staying with her day and night, looking after all her needs, including her toilet needs. And again, the way she was caring for her, I never felt that she was, people call them servants. I would say not even helper, I will use the word just daughter. And also as a doctor, I noticed that the way she nursed her, it was almost like a professional nurse assistant, although she never had training for that. So again, very fortunate to have, like Ram Singh, a person like Manju with us.
How comfortable are you with your kitchen skills?
Now, Vivek, after you ask that question, just hold your breath and listen carefully. I was recognized as the best chef of Cambridge. Now listen to the story behind it. In year 1996, I was invited to give a lecture at the Royal College of Physicians, London. Asha was with me, and after that, both of us went to Cambridge to spend 2 days with Patty and her husband Philip Rundle. Patty and I have been working throughout the world for many years to protect, promote, and support breastfeeding. That night, over dinner, we were chatting with each other, and Patty and Philip were surprised to learn that I had difficulty even making a cup of tea. Next evening, they had invited some friends for dinner and to meet us. After they had gone, Philip told me, Raj, would you like to clean the dining table? Of course, I was very happy that I can do something, and I started doing that. Philip was watching me all the time, and he was really impressed and shared that he was happy that I have made good progress. And behold, after that, when we came back to India, we received a t-shirt from Philip with a photograph of mine on the t-shirt, and below written, the best chef of Cambridge. This is a Punjabi song. A young girl likes a boy. The boy is tall and slim and very sweet. So she gives him a lot of hints, but doesn't get any response from him. She gives hint like putting a tall tree outside our home and mulberry, because he was a sweet guy, giving her hint that she likes him, but he doesn't give her enough attention. But then she dreams as if she did get married to him, and that she even imagines that she had a child, but the child in the as if in the dream is a child made with the mud, and the child doesn't respond, doesn't speak, and finally she sings and says that when I go to the bathroom with the baby, because it was made of mud, everything was washed out. So this is the background of the song. किथे ते रानियां मैं टालियां नी पता वालियां नी मेरा पतला माए कुए ते लावा शतोत बेसमझी नु समझ ना आई गिट गिट हो याने टालियां नी पता वालियां नी मेरा पतला माए बुए ते लावा शतोत बेसमझी नु समझ ना आई मिट्टी दा बावा मैं बा नानी यानी जगा पानी यानी उत्ते देनी आखेसी नारो मिट्टी दिया बा वे आवे तेरा प्यो परदेसी मिट्टी दा बावा मैं बा नानी यानी जगा पानी यानी उत्ते देनी आखेसी नारो मिट्टी दिया बा वे आवे तेरा प्यो परदेसी मिट्टी दा बावा नहीं हूँ बोलदा नहीं हूँ चालदा नहीं हूँ देंदा hungaरा नान गई दा मेरा गल गया नहीं मेरा मिट्टी दा बावा मिट्टी दा बावा नहीं हूँ बोलदा नहीं हूँ चालदा नहीं हूँ देंदा hungaरा नान गई दा मेरा गल गया नहीं मेरा मिट्टी दा बावा गिट गिट हो यानी टालियां नी पता वालियां नी मेरा पतला माई बुए ते लावा शतोत बेसमझी नु समझ ना आई गिट गिट होया
What are your thoughts about aging?
Whenever someone asks me about aging, I again remember my friend Kanpur, and I thought I will first share two jokes with you, which are from his book. Three old ladies met on the street on a very stormy day. The wind was so strong and loud that they had difficulty in hearing each other. It's windy, said one. No, it's Thursday, said the next. So am I, said the third. Let's go and have a drink. And whenever I read, now I also have some problem with hearing, and I can understand this joke. Then the second one, a reporter was interviewing a 104-year-old woman and asked, "Ma'am, what do you think is the best thing about being 104-year-old?" He asked. She replied, "Sir, no peer pressure." I love these two jokes. And then, of course, I will say when you talk about aging, I refer to the three mantras earlier, and I had mentioned that the third mantra was Mast raho or keep smiling. And I have used this word smile as acronym to point out many things which have helped me in my life as I grew older. And I like to tell you about these words: smile, SMILE. S. S for sleep and sensible eating. M for meditation and mindfulness. I for integrity and inner voice. L for love and listen. E for exercise and example. So when anyone wants to know all this in detail, as I had mentioned earlier, they can get this article from publicconcern@gmail.com. The simple thing is, for example, when I say L for love and listen, many young people complain, these old guys बोलते बहुत हैं. And it's true also, very often their complaint is genuine. And so perhaps we have to keep remembering that we should have to listen as much as we speak, if at least not less. Okay?
Do you have any thoughts on death and dying?
Again, I would like to refer to what Mr. Kanpur has mentioned in his book. The quote is, "You cannot do anything about birth and death. You cannot do anything about birth and death except to enjoy the interval between them." So let's enjoy the interval between birth and death, rather about worrying about kya hoga, death and all that. And the more I have been thinking, reading the spiritual books also, in fact, our spiritual books mention that actually death should be considered as death of our ego. For example, I love that bhajan, घूंघट के पट खोल रहे तो है मियाँ मिलेंगे. अगर औरत ने घूंघट पहना हुआ है तो पिया कैसे नजर आएंगे? घूंघट हटाएगी तब ना नजर आएंगे. तो उसी तरह से अगर आप इगोइस्टिक हैं तो आपको जो एक्सपीरियंस करना है सेल्फ का, स्पिरिट को, आनंद को, ब्लिस को, वो नहीं होगा. So that's why I would say when we say death, I think I would consider it as a death of my ego and refer to this bhajan. घूंघट के पट खोल रे तोहे पिया मिलेंगे. घूंघट के पट खोल. घट घट में तोरे साई बसत है. घट घट में तोरे साई बसत है. कटुक वचन मत बोल रे तोहे पिया मिलेंगे. घूंघट के पट खोल.
What is the meaning of life?
Two things come to my mind. One is to undertake God-dedicated activities. Number two, to spread cheers all around by developing love for all and hatred for none. And this comes very clear from the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 11, verse 55, and in St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians in the Bible. The Bhagavad Gita says, experiencing the awareness of oneness through the vision of the same self or spirit in everyone and in everything. Then you feel the oneness with everyone. you know. And St. Paul, in his letter to the Corinthians in the Bible, refers to three things: faith, hope, and love. And he makes a point that all three are important: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of all is love. And honestly, I've experienced in life, and it has really given me a meaning in life for doing what is right without any hatred or bitterness against anyone, and enjoying every bit of what I was doing.
Do you have any thoughts on creating a work-life balance?
Yeah, of course, time for work is important, but I feel it's not enough. There should also be time for self. And when I say time for self, I mean for spiritual growth, for taking care of my health, for my friends, for my family, and for a hobby or enjoying something together with my partner. And of course, time for community and for humanity.
Are you content with your life? Do you have any regrets?
Fully content and no regrets.
How would you like to be remembered?
A happy-go-lucky guy promoting healthy and happy living, fighting injustice with hatred for none and love for all.
Any scary moment in your life?
Yes, it was scary. Vivek, I was going to Costa Rica, and when we heard while sitting on the plane that there was some problem and we'll have to land and spend our night in Panama, and that the arrangements for our stay overnight will be made in a hotel. Well, we got down. Our passport was taken by the security, and we had our dinner and we went to sleep. I was in deep sleep and I heard a knock on the door, and something inside told me, don't open, you don't know anyone over here, so forget. And then I got a phone call. Well, I am the security and I must see you. Now, when he said, I'm your security and my passport is with him, I said, okay, come over. So he pressed the bell, I opened the door, he comes in, and of course he had his pistol with him. And he said, well, gentlemen, I want to sleep in your room. That was scary. Now, my passport was here with him. I couldn't be rude. So something inside told me, ring the reception. And this is what I say, that if you seek God's guidance, God guides you. So I ring the reception that this gentleman from security has come and he wants to sleep in my room. So I'm feeling a little odd, so I thought I'll talk to you. So the man at the reception said, I'm glad you rang, sir. He has no business to disturb you like that. His job is only to make sure you don't run away from the hotel. And that's why he's supposed to sit outside the hotel to ensure that everyone is safe and nothing wrong happens. So give the phone to him. So then they talk to each other in the local language. Then sheepishly, this gentleman left. In the morning, when we were having our breakfast, he was moving around, but he will not have eye contact with me. Then a thought was coming to me, why not report about this guy to the local authorities? But again, as I have told you, I have said, I call it the higher power. What shall I do? And it was very clear, no, my dear son, if you report to the authorities, they will ask you to stay on to investigate the case. You better, like a good boy, just get out of the hotel, take your passport, sit in the bus to go to the airport, and forget about this incident. Maybe you can relate it to others whenever the opportunity arises. So that was really scary, and I can't forget that.
What steps would you suggest to experience the self or the spirit?
Well, over the years, under the guidance of some of the spiritual teachers that I was fortunate to have, and reading the spiritual texts, I came to 10 steps. And purposefully, I made them begin with S for each step so that people can easily remember it. Number 1, sense control. Number 2, Simran. 3, selfless service. 4, sattvic qualities. 5, satsang. 6, scriptures or shruti. 7, spiritual guide. 8, silence. 9, samadhi. 10, self or spirit. विवेक, जब भी मैं यहाँ खड़ा होके ये नज़ारा देखता हूँ, so my heart gets filled with gratitude to God कि कहाँ से मुझे अमृतसर की वो छोटी सी गली से ला के यहाँ पहुँचा दिया, and gave me this beautiful setup where I can enjoy this, and the song comes to mind, Suhana Safar Bade Mausam Hasi. I'm really very grateful to God for making it possible for me to enjoy this creation which He has made, with lovely trees all around, the sea all around, and I'm really very grateful to the Almighty. हमारी पंजाबी शादियों में कई बार कुछ मजाकिये गाने भी संगीत की शाम को गाए जाते हैं, तो मुझे वो 2 गाने याद आ गए, तो आपको सुनाता हूँ। पहला गाना है कि पत्नी बहुत लंबी चौड़ी मोटी माजे दी जट्टी, और उसका जो पति है वो छोटा सा पतला दुबला जिसको वो गुलाबू करके एड्रेस करती है. So it goes like that. ओए मैं मौजे दी जटी गुलाबू निका जिया, ओए मैं मौजे दी जटी गुलाबू निका जिया. ओ तां पीवे दुध छटाकी, ओ तां पीवे दुध छटाकी, मैं तां पीवां वटी गुलाबू निका जिया. ओए मैं तां पीवां वटी गुलाबू निका जिया. ओए मैं मौजे दी जटी गुलाबू निका जिया. एक छनकना दो छनकने, एक छनकना दो छनकने, फिरदी हटियों हटी गुलाबू निका जिया. मैं फिरदी हटियों हटी गुलाबू निका जिया. ओए मैं मौजे दी जटी गुलाबू निका जिया. गुल्ली डंडा खेल रचावे, गुल्ली डंडा खेल रचावे, मैं उड़ीका खटी गुलाबू निका जिया. ओए मैं उड़ीका खटी गुलाबू निका जिया. ओए मैं मौजे दी जटी गुलाबू निका जिया. ओए मैं मौजे दी जटी गुलाबू निका जिया. मेरी माँ मैं सौरे नहीं जाना, मेरी माँ मैं सौरे नहीं जाना, नहीं जाना, नहीं जाना मेरी माँ मैं सौरे नहीं जाना. पहली वारी मनु सौरा लैन आया, पहली दवारी मनु सौरा लैन आया. सौरे दे नाल मेरी जाओगी भला, कुंडा खोलिया ना जाए, कुंडी सुटिया ना जाए, चुंड चुकिया ना जाए. माए नी सौरा खुडड़ा दिलां दा बुढ़ड़ा, मैं ओदे नाल नहीं जाना, नहीं जाना, नहीं जाना मेरी माँ मैं सौरे नहीं जाना. दूजी तवारी मनु जेठ लाने आया, दूजी तवारी मनु जेठ लैन आया. जेठ दे नाल मेरी जाओगी भला, कुंडा खोलिया ना जाए, चुंड चुकिया ना जाए, चुंड सुटिया ना जाए. माए नी जेठ वडड़ा सेठ, मारा गोली ते फट जाए पेट, मैं ओदे नाल नहीं जाना, नहीं जाना, नहीं जाना मेरी माँ मैं सौरे नहीं जाना. तीजी तवारी मनु बाबू लैन आया, तीजी तवारी मनु बाबू लैन आया. बाबू दे नाल मैं जाऊंगी सदा, कुंडा खोलिया भी जाए, चुंड चुकिया भी जाए, चुंड सुटिया भी जाए. माए नी बाबू ने कर लिया काबू, मैं ओदे नाल टुर जाना, टुर जाना, टुर जाना मेरी माँ मैं सौरे टुर जाना, मेरी माँ मैं सौरे टुर जाना.